Great. Hi, my name is Shaun Foster. I'm a professor at RIT. I teach 3D digital graphics and interactive technology there. So I'm always looking for new technologies to try out. One of them that I've been using recently to make the students' lives a little bit more fun during lectures and also my life fun for preparing lectures is a software called Prezi. Does anybody use Prezi? All right. Quite a few people have. It's a pretty new software, but it's gaining popularity. It's web-based, and it does a lot to go away from the traditional linear structure. So this is made in Prezi, and it allows for constant zooming, panning. In this lecture, I'm going to talk about what is Prezi, how to Prezi in 5 minutes, and my background is a mix of film and business, and so I'm going to go over some cinematic techniques to help create sort of little Eureka moments that hopefully help students learn a little bit better. So what is Prezi? Prezi it's a new, it's been around for about 2 years, commercially. It allows for presentation on a single page. It's almost like you get to deal with a page, like a giant piece of paper, and then you tell a camera where to move around, where the information is. It allows for multilinear information being presented. It's similar to, I think in some ways, to mind mapping. Mind maps were sort of made popular by Tony Buzan, who's a British psychologist. And, it's where you start out with a central idea and you can branch off of it. And so in the same way, you can structure information so that you can have a central idea, zoom in, zoom out, and then summarize. So I'll do a quick overview of the steps for making a Prezi, and then if there's time at the end, I'll quickly put one together and show the tools. I'd say in terms of making one, it's key to think outside the box. In a PowerPoint presentation, I'm constantly thinking in like steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In Prezi, what I think is really great about it's more about concepts. It's about structuring the concepts of the lecture. And then after the concepts are structured, it's how do I frame the camera. So it's a lot more like filmmaking. So it's fun. So designing a Prezi. So what I try to do is have a lot less text. I find that when I personally watch PowerPoint presentations or students watch PowerPoint presentations that are chock full of text, they're trying to read the text while I'm trying to say something, and that's never worked very well. So what I'll try to do is encapsulate information. So I'll try to put up a representative image that will then link to their brain, and so and that seems to work really well. It also gives me room to talk about how I'm going to sort of concentrate the image. So in some ways, keeping it fresh is really important too, right? So less text, more images. You get to fly around the screen. One of my concerns with learning this software is would it take a long time to learn, and also would it be sort of able to take my time and leverage it in an appropriate way. So, and yes, it's actually, I found that it's actually time cost effective versus doing a PowerPoint presentation. And as I mentioned before, it also helps you structure information in a way that's easy to visually summarize. So, given all those factors, then what are the steps for making a Prezi? It's pretty much 6 steps. First, I design the presentation outside of Prezi on a piece of paper. I'll jot down notes, or I will maybe make a Word document. And then you sort of decide on a color, and then it's simply in terms of learning Prezi, it's setting up a navigation system. It's just understanding how to like move around the presentation. I'm in a Prezi right now, and even though I've structured the Prezi, I can sort of navigate and zoom, even though I have a pre-formatted presentation, so I can go back to it, or I can navigate interactively during the presentation, which is really nice. So then it's simply adding content, then modifying the content, and pretty much for the most part, it's scaling the content and rotating it so that, and then finally it's framing it. And once you have your content framed in different ways, then you connect those frames with a path, and the paths will sort of create a step-by-step system for the presentation. Since I'm in Prezi, I can sort of I'll show that. So it's those 6 simple steps. In fact, I'm thinking, why don't I just step outside and show my Prezi that I'm working on, that I've made for this. So as an educator, one of the great things is that everybody can use Prezi for free. It's a free online software tool, and but in addition, like sort of the benefit is that if you are an educator, you can sign up for an educational account, and as opposed to a business person who would pay $50, you literally get a free $50 type account, which means that you have more storage space online, and you can also sort of download Prezis. So one of my thoughts was, when I was going to give this presentation, okay, well, what if I didn't get access to internet when I came here, which I knew I would have, but I was able to download the presentation, so I could, if there was a technical problem, I could show it. And this is it in terms of the tool set. It's pretty much you set up to write, and you access by hitting the space bar to show, and you can use the mouse to navigate in. And what I also sort of really am happy about the fact that they have little icons, so if I can set, I can hit P for path, or F for frame if I want to pull up these tools. And the fact is, like, there's only sort of a few tools, and so it keeps it really simple. On the other hand, does anybody here sort of use Flash? Okay, several of you. So it's Flash based. And what's really cool about that is that you can make Flash presentations, FLV files, or you can find them on the web and you can literally plug them into the software, which is very cool. So you can sort of extend the possibilities quite a bit. So really, if I wanted to write, and then once that's been input, I can frame it, or size it. So clicking on the object, this is the tool for modifying it. So I can scale it up. So it's inside is scale and outside is rotate. And then I can move it around. The center point is moving it around. And then usually I sort of will mix text and graphics. And so given that, then I will want to frame that. And so I'll often put a frame around it. And then finally I would put a path object to it. But since I already have my presentation already set, I can sort of just show. And then, so if I hit the space bar, and then just click on it, then I can zoom in, and that will be part of the presentation. And let me just show the paths. So if you hit the P key, you can see the numbering system that Prezi will set up. And in addition to just sort of showing you what I've shown you, they have a really simple 5-minute instructional video online. So I highly recommend everybody give it a shot. It's it's amazing software. It's a lot of fun to use. So let me switch back.
Can students collaborate on doing different parts of a presentation? Can multiple authors?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Yes, I think you can send the link. You can definitely send links off and sort of give people access to your Prezi. In terms of editing, I think you probably can also sort of give authorization for others to edit. So that's a really good question. So,
Are there instructional videos at Prezi.com?
yeah, there's several instructional videos that you can watch for just basic stuff like I've shown, and also, if you want to use Flash videos, yeah.
You mentioned it's online. What if you, can you download the program into your own machine?
But if you're an educator, you can sign up for the sort of step up, or you can pay, if you're not an educator, you can pay like $50 or $100 and get a higher level account. But if you're an educator, you automatically get a free $50 account, which allows you to download your presentations and
you
edit.
Them online and then download them into your machine.
Right, and I think that I've always done it online, but I'm pretty sure that you can also sort of, now that I have the educational account, I can also edit them. I can choose to edit them offline, which is really nice. Yeah.
Does Prezi have sort of a area on there where you can share, like I'm a science teacher, is there an ability to share with other people on Prezi? Yeah, you can choose to make your Prezis public or private, and that's one of the things I've really gained inspiration from, is looking at people who've done different Prezis, and so I've said, oh, that's a really wonderful way of displaying information. And so, in addition to like zooming or panning, they like sort of they do reveals, and that was one of the inspirations for this presentation. Plus, it's just great to see what other people are doing out there. Yeah.
Can you embed this in your website?
Yeah, there's I was reading about this because I was interested in sort of applying it to a blog, right? And yes, there's instructions for embedding it into Blogger, and so I assume it's sort of not too hard to do it into a website. Yeah.
So for the pricing model for this, it's free to try, or how does that work?
No, it's for educators, it's free. And I mean, actually for everybody it's free, but like we get additional like sort of freeness because we're educators. You sort of send them your email account, and then they say, okay, now you have like 500 megabytes of free storage space, and sort of access to downloading your files and editing them offline, which is really nice. Yeah.
One of the tools in PowerPoint that I use most is lecture notes at the bottom. Is there an option to put in your own notes anywhere?
Oh, that's a good question. No, I haven't found that, so that's a really good point.
Just stop trying to tell her, if you're teaching students taking multiple courses, and some of their courses do have something like PowerPoint, where more information is already pre-written for them, what is your student response with something like this? The student is actually responsible for doing more work.
I'm sorry, are you asking, am I asking them to do more work in order to...
No, I guess I'm asking, in a sense, because there are less words on the slide, the students are required to do more work. And if they're taking other courses where PowerPoint or another program is giving them more pre-written information, I was just wondering what your students' response were to this kind of thing, where if they missed something while you were talking, they didn't write it down, there's a test question of the interest.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'm sure it differs depending on what field you're teaching in. And so for me, I'm teaching a lot of heavy technical information with 3D, and then I'm teaching sort of a mix of aesthetic information with, how does it look? And so what I try to do is use Prezi to leverage the aesthetic information. And I just try not to have a lot of text describing what I'm going to say, so there's not, but I think that's a really good point, that it would be, given what other people have sort of asked, I have lecture notes that I sort of will give out sometimes, especially given technical stuff, or links to technical demos where I've recorded myself using the software. Yeah, please.
I use PowerPoints quite frequently in my classroom, and one of the features that I enjoy about PowerPoint is the setting that I work in have a high volume of special ed students, so I don't require them to write a lot of the information and they have notes to walk away from. Is there a formatted version that you could print your Prezi so they have at least the text information? You know what I'm saying?
That's a good
Because you could
question.
use slides and handouts from PowerPoints that they can take with them. Can you do that with Prezi?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, you could definitely do screen captures, but I think that that's a really cool. I mean, in terms of the positive and negatives, one of the negatives that I also thought of with Prezi is that, like, I like to use. Sometimes I'll use, a chunk of a lecture, and there'll be like 10 PowerPoint slides, and then I'll transfer that, and that seems like it's probably possible to do like a save as, but it's probably a little bit easier with PowerPoint.
I had a question. Can you copy components within a Prezi and paste them to other areas of Prezi, or within
Yeah.
a different Prezi?
Oh yeah, I mean you can definitely like sort of go in and just select an object and then duplicate it.
Can you select multiple objects and link objects with each other?
Yeah, definitely. Let me exit, and then I'll go over like sort of the next few pieces of in terms of the techniques that I've used. So I'll just go back into this. And so it takes usually a moment to load while it's online.
Can you record narration directly into Prezi?
That's a good question. Yeah, there's some really interesting things you can do with Prezi in terms of narration. You could record yourself and post it on YouTube, and then you can put a link on Prezi, and it'll since it's online, it'll automatically embed the YouTube video into the Prezi, that's one of the things I really like about Prezi as opposed to PowerPoint, is that you can sort of, like I've had PowerPoint issues playing videos. Like it doesn't seem to play videos at full frame rates.
Is there?
Yes.
Could you repeat the questions when they're asked up front? We haven't heard the last 5 questions.
Okay.
Shaun, you have about 7 minutes.
Great. Let me finish the presentation, which is sort of using the cinematic techniques. And so, and then if there's any other questions. So these are the sort of several cinematic techniques that I chose that I've sort of tried to use and interweave into my presentation. So I've used narrative. One of the things that's key in sort of cinematic storytelling is, show it, don't say it. Also, developing tension, right? I mean, it's sort of like asking a simple question, will sort of bring up tension within the students, or showing part of an image. And then, showing like sort of the release, right, is that, of course the coyote always gets it right. And so hopefully in that sort of little, release of information, the students, there's an additional emotional response, and then they're hopefully more likely to learn it or jot it down. And pacing is also really important, of course, right? I mean, there's sort of a rise and fall, and within a lecture that I'll try to think about. Right, framing the information. It's fun to frame information within words or have pieces, so that they're visually interesting. I mean, this is from the Seven Samurai, different triangle. And it's also sort of useful for showing composition in terms of teaching visual art. In terms of also delivering information, having a shot, reverse shot structure, it's also another way of creating tension, right? And this is shot, reverse shot, and then reaction. So it's structuring information in the same way that it's used in a cinematic presentation. And same with contrast and color, right? You bring up information in such a way that there's visually contrasting, and then there's also sort of literal contrast in terms of adding color, right? I mean so I think sure everybody remembers the moment that Dorothy walks out, the door, and suddenly everything's in color, and so that sort of a surprise moment definitely embeds itself in the brain. Same thing with zooming in and out, right? I mean, that's one of the wonderful things. It allows really high resolution images, so you can zoom into a specific part of that image, and then zoom out for a broader, broader perspective. And I think that's what it does best, right? Same thing with reveals. I mean, you can sort of turn images on their side or ask a question and let the audience think about this. I teach sort of a real-time game level design class, and this is one of the ones I ask my students, and I see them. There's always several students furiously looking at the maze and going, okay, can I figure out the maze? And then they eventually realize that there is no solution. They get a little frustrated, and that frustration is sort of, for me, it's wonderful. And then there's the reveal, right? That's the solution, right? Just go around the maze, right? So they get a little bit annoyed, but it's worth it, and it helps them think about that in terms of their game level design too.
So nobody comes from the back and tries to go up, because when they get about a third of the way up, you see there's no way across.
Right. Some of them do. They do get it. Like someone's, hey, you can't solve that. So, and same thing with focus. One of the things, an additional thing I've done using Flash is I've created rack focus, where you can sort of choose to zoom in on an object and then add interactivity where you can click on it. But I wanted to just do a, sort of a plain vanilla PowerPoint so everybody could see all the features that were just within it. Finally, I think it's also cool to sort of have and include a transformative element. So up to this point, I've sort of had things where you zoom way in and you see the image up close and differently. And this way, it's the opposite, right? They look much different far away, and then when you get up close, you realize that, wait a second, that's a, sort of an impossible image. And how did they do that? How do you do that visually? Same thing with having people embedded in an image. So that sort of surprise moment is wonderful. And then I think sort of as a capstone, it's sort of nice to just show what the final presentation included, so the students can sort of think about all of the steps that they went through in the whole presentation. So I think there are quite a few more questions, and it's wonderful software. And I think I'm running close on time. Yeah, there's a few more minutes. Yeah, please.
Could you use Prezi to create, in essence, a movie?
Yeah, another professor. Yeah, could you use it to make a movie was the question. And yeah, I mean, I sort of imagine you use screen capture software. And somebody was talking about, another professor in anthropology was talking about how they used it to sort of create street views, almost like sort of rotations, as if you were sort of rotating and looking in 360 degrees. I thought that was an interesting way of using it. So yeah.
Two things I've noticed about Prezi, having used it for less than a year. First of all, they add features as time goes on. They added some nice features for color capabilities and so forth. Also, there are many examples that other people have used that are available to use and copy and edit and change.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. Yeah.
One thing it doesn't do well is print. I found there's a print feature, it creates a PDF file that doesn't work very well. That's something, but hopefully that will be used.
Cool. Yeah, it's new software. It's good to know about the PDF feature. I haven't used that. Yes, please.
Is there a way to use any PowerPoints and import them at all?
Yeah, I've done that because, right, I mean, a lot of my presentations are already PowerPoint. You can, tell PowerPoint to kick out a bunch of slides that are, PDF format, and then you can import those into Prezi. So you could literally take PowerPoint and then sort of start to modify part of your PowerPoint presentations. That's a great question. Yeah, please.
Tying into Dr. Friedman's presentation, there are also templates for Prezi of different games you can play with your students in the class, which are kind of neat.
Fun.
Like Candyland and the Game of Life that you can add questions in it. So really available as well.
Cool. Anyone else? I think that's great. We're all set. Thank you very much.